All right. Sorry about that. I'm going to get a drink. We will now reconvene into open session, and the time is now 7:01 p.m. Please join us in the Pledge of Allegiance and the Texas Pledge. Welcome to all. The Lewisville ISD Board of Trustees meets monthly to receive reports from staff and take action on recommendations from the superintendent. The board receives the agenda and all supporting documentation 10 days in advance of these regular meetings, which allows us to ask and receive answers to many of our questions. In addition, the board also meets in regularly scheduled workshops and work sessions where staff discussions and presentations are given for many of the agenda items. This protocol means lengthy discussion or a litany of questions on every agenda item often is not necessary, and as a board, we should have appropriate knowledge and preparation for responses regarding the content of our meeting tonight. First up is Superintendent Update. Dr. Rogers.
Thank you, Ms. Sales. Board. We'll get started. Still having school days, so we're glad about that. Just a reminder to our board, to the community, we're working very hard to try to keep our schools open. And, sorry to say, to this point, we've had to go to remote learning with 4 of our schools. If you remember, right before Thanksgiving, we went to remote learning with Griffin. Right after the winter holiday break, we had to, later around the middle of January, we had to close Mill Street Elementary School, go to remote learning. Then about a week and a half ago, we had to close Lamar Middle School for, I believe, 3 days. And then last week, we had to close Creek Valley Middle School. We actually closed it originally last Friday through this upcoming Wednesday, but today we made the decision based on numbers of staff affected that we extend it through Friday, which meant we had to request a waiver for the state, because if we go to remote learning at any campus for more than 5 days, we have to request a waiver. Thanks to the work of Dr. Fitzhugh. She's already submitted the waiver. I've already signed it. We've sent it in, but interesting times, I guess, is all I can say. So for COVID, I wanted to try to share with the board and with the community, this is the type of work that Dr. Fitzhugh and a lot of others do every day as far as us tracking number of students quarantined, number of staff quarantined. We go through this data. We actually have daily called meetings where about 10 of us meet to go over COVID data much too often. And yet, I just can't express enough appreciation to all the folks that are involved with that. You add with that, excuse me, Dr. Fitzhugh pays attention to the data by campus, the number of active students, the number of active staff, the number of those that are quarantined, and we track all of that. We know, thanks to Dr. Fitzhugh's data, when people are coming off of quarantine, so we can say, okay, hey, we just got to get till next Tuesday, because we're getting 8 staff members back and we're getting 70 students back. So we pay close attention to that, and it's a lot of work by that group. This is another example of the data that we look at, so we can look at what's the percentage of staff that are out. I just want to make it clear, when we're talking about staff or students out, it's not that percentage has COVID. It's just that percentage is affected. A few are positive for COVID, and the great majority of them have come into contact. And so after contact tracing, we've got to quarantine them. And so if we end up in 3 of the 4 cases, if we end up having to go to remote learning for a campus, it's because the number of staff are too great and we can't cover it. We have done everything to try to cover as many classes, thanks to the work of Sheila and her group. They stay 5:36 every day waiting on input from principals. Hey, can you cover, because you're going to have 5 teachers out tomorrow due to quarantine. We've had, and we've talked to the board, but I just want the community to understand, we've hired bus drivers that come and help us sit in classrooms to, the teacher's quarantine, so the teacher can still teach, but you still need someone in the classroom with students. We've had PTA folks go through training to do it, and we have over 100 folks in this building that have signed up to volunteer, and so we use all those resources to try to keep this thing afloat, and so just really appreciative of the work that everyone's done. Thanks to the great work of Denton County and Denton County Health Department. They've just been our salvation since last March, and we have weekly calls with County Judge Eads and others, and so you can just see where the Denton County by the numbers are tracking. There have been 55,820 cases in Denton County. You can see the number that have recovered, and of course there's some that are active. Sorry to say we've lost 344 folks in Denton County, which is just tragic. They spend a lot of time on their website. They provide a lot of great information, really pay a lot of attention to hospital capacity. What's the capacity of our hospitals in Denton County? And I will tell you, good news is our capacity is improving and continues. The COVID percentage of hospital beds being used for COVID continues to decrease, and today was 19.6%, which is better than it's been in several months. So we hope that continues to decline. There is some concern post Super Bowl and everyone having parties, so let's hope Denton County had their Super Bowl parties just with their families. So we'll see. You can see the vaccine, and of course I know you've seen on the news, Denton County at Texas Motor Speedway has gotten national recognition for the way they've run the show. I mean, last week they had 31,500 vaccines, and they had 3 vaccination days where their goal was to vaccinate 10,000 people a day. And they came close. They would have met it if all the people had shown up. The only reason they didn't do it is because some folks were no-shows. This week, and this is part of the problem with the supply chain. So last week, Denton County got 31,500 vaccines. This week, they got 9,000. I mean, so that's the struggle that all these county health departments are facing as far as what to know, what's coming down the pike. But they have vaccinated over 47,000 Denton County residents, but there's 215,000 still on the wait list, and that's just from groups 1A and 1B. And of course, we know, and what concerns us is that teachers are in group 1C, and so that's something that we're trying to work on. For LISD, and this was as of last Friday, we had 25 new student cases and 246 active cases, and then you can see the new staff cases 10, and the active was 62 for staff. So still, when you add those numbers, while it's a lot, when you look at 50,000 students, 6,500 employees, or 3,600 teachers, it's still a very low percentage. Our health services department, led by Melanie Vincelette that reports to Mr. Kaj has just done amazing work. So I've talked about that we applied with the Texas Department of Emergency Management to be a testing site. And so this is the pallets of just stuff that we got from LISD, for LISD. So you can see the number of test kits, 34,500 rapid test kits. And so today was actually our first day to actually test our staff. And our purpose in doing that is really twofold. One, we want to test our staff to where if they're quarantined, they can be tested on day 7 and get back to work on day 8, and that gives us 3 days quicker than them having to just quarantine for 10 days. The second thing is it's at no cost to our staff, so they don't have to pay to be tested. And then we will eventually plan to test our staff that aren't trying to get out of quarantine, but just, hey, they're feeling bad, they're going to, dock in a box on the corner to be tested, which is what I've done. We'll test them ourselves. It won't cost them anything. We can get them in and out quicker. And so they can find out sooner, hey, are they positive? Were they just symptomatic, but they're not COVID positive, so on. We will also explore using these tests in the future for large groups of students that might be affected. So, and then I wanted you to know, and once again, thanks to the work of Mr. Kaj and Ms. Vincelette, we are working to become a vaccination site. And when I say a vaccination site, where we contract with a medical director, we've already done that, with a local pediatrician, where we could eventually begin to receive the vaccine ourselves and then vaccinate our own staff. Now, that's not a quick turnaround, sorry to say, I wish it was, but there are a couple of other school districts that have done that, and so it's not a great expense. We have to, and I've authorized it, that we have to buy some refrigeration units, some specialized. They're not that expensive. We've already contracted with a doctor, as I said, in the community to be the medical director to sort of oversee it. If we don't do it, it doesn't cost us anything. But I just think we have to continue to explore all options to try to get our staff vaccinated. And so, my promise to the staff is we're doing everything we can to try to expedite that system. You can see how many staff we've quarantined since September 2nd, a lot. So I'm feeling pretty good, pretty proud of the work that our folks have done. Our principals have worked diligently to try to cover classes when you have 1,200 staff quarantined for 10 days, and remember early on it was for up to 14 days. We have had some staff resign due to COVID, but it's not great numbers. We certainly hate, so, and then we have staff that are allowed to work remotely, and that's 112 because they have an underlying medical condition. We don't just allow anyone to work remotely. We're still having trouble trying to fill positions, that come open. It's not as quick to fill those positions as in previous years, and that's just to be understood. As you know, we have 128 permanent sub positions that we started this year. That's been our salvation, to be honest with you. And we're having trouble finding subs, and so you can see the difference in the fill rate from 86% last year to 73%. So the negative part is that means, only 7 out of 10 times when a teacher is sick can we find someone to cover. So we're having to use people from this building, bus drivers, aides at the campus level to do that. And just kudos particularly on folks from this building. Learning and teaching and employee services have stepped up over and over and over again to keep this thing afloat. So I wanted to shift gears to Austin. Don't know if it's, which one makes me feel worse about, but anyway, Governor Abbott last Monday gave his State of the State address. He listed 5 emergency items that he wants them to vote on within the first 60 days. All in favor of the state trying to figure out how to provide internet access to all students. This affects rural areas as much as it does, students in metro areas, probably worse in rural areas. Preventing local governance from defunding the police, reforming the bail system, ensuring election integrity, and then civil liability for business. That's his top 5 emergency items. I don't know if you saw, but the House Democratic Caucus, is continuing to call for the cancellation of in-person STAR testing. There's education folks, even superintendents are very split about this. From what TA is Commissioner Morath is very, very clear that he wants STAR to go on, even if it's for, analysis to look at where kids are at. I'm personally opposed to that. I think it's a waste, and particularly, how do we put more people at risk by forcing virtual learners to come and take an in-person test? Just doesn't make sense to me. That's my opinion. And then some late news last week. New Speaker Phelan did committee assignments. I've just listed about the House Public Ed Committee, which was a big shock that he removed the longtime chair of that, Dan Huberty. And now the House Public Ed Committee is going to be led by 2 Democrats. For the first time, a Democrat since 2002 is in charge of that committee. There's a little angst with Dutton and he's from Houston area, because he has been a supporter of charters, and so that's something that we'll absolutely pay attention to. But interesting times in the Texas House, I would just say that. Senator Nelson has filed an education-related bill, Senate Bill 199, that talks about external defibrillator training. She also wants there to be an Office of Inspector General at TA. Representative Parker's filed an education-related bill, House Bill 1461, that it requires TRS to study the health reimbursement accounts. Representative Beckley has filed 3 education-related bills, one requiring vaccination against bacterial meningitis, one about workload for custodians. I don't want to be on that committee, and one about TA recommending standards for maintenance and custodial services. Representative Patterson's filed 6. One about virtual learning, but it's very broad. It's not really in alignment much with what we propose as part of our legislative priorities. Some others regarding mental health, participation in UIL activities. And I didn't list, of course, the one about taxpayer lobbyists, which I think is problematic for a lot of folks. Representative Bell from Forney wants to allow ISDs to serve students within their district virtually and to fund it. So we certainly, we're sort of up in the air next year as far as, is the state going to fund virtual learning? And then, of course, Representative Hinojosa has filed something about changing the funding to use average daily enrollment over average daily attendance. That's for many school districts, that's 6 of one, half a dozen the other. For us, I think that's probably beneficial to LISD because we're sort of flat in growth. If I was in a fast-growing district, I'd want to keep it average daily attendance, but I would be in favor of average daily enrollment. That's all I got. Questions?
Any questions from any of the board?
I
Yes.
just was, I want to give, if you will, kudos to our Denton County Commissioners for their work at the Texas Motor Speedway. Really good job there. I do have a question about when you talked about us becoming a vaccination site. And I know it's not an easy process, but do we have an idea of like would that be before the end of this school year, or are we looking beyond that?
Well, we would do it as soon as we can. I don't know if, it may be mid-May, late May. So one of the concerns about is I don't want to get the hopes up of our staff, because we're not going to get to determine when we qualify and get through the system. But they're working through the system. I think we'll know a lot more in the next week or so. We're going to end up doing a survey of our staff just to know, hey, who's already had the vaccine, who would take it if they could, because we need to have sort of an idea of, the numbers we're talking about. But, of course, Matt Garrett, Jeff Kaj, and Ms. Vincelette have got details worked out. If we, could get the vaccine in 2 weeks, we could start giving it, the next week, but it won't be that soon.
Okay, are there any other questions for Dr. Rogers? Okay, moving on. We have this month's recognitions and student spotlight.
In January, the Lewisville High School Cheer and Bell Crew claimed second place in the 2021 UIL Spirit State Championships Co-Ed Division. The team is led by LHS head cheer coach Kanisha Keaton. According to Coach Keaton, going into a year with many uncertainties, the road to state wasn't easy, but the team pushed through practices and daily reminders to remain flexible, which ultimately developed a team with an eagerness to win. Congratulations on all your accomplishments, LHS Cheer and Bell Crew. LISD is proud of you.
Congratulations, Lewisville High School Cheer and Bell Crew. You have worked day and night to earn this accomplishment. Thank you for showing your true strength of character during one of the most challenging times in history. And a thank you to the LISD Superintendent, Dr. Kevin Rogers, and the LISD Board of Trustees for this amazing recognition of our Lewisville High School Fighting Furniture Leaders and Bell Crew. Thank you.
Congratulations to them. That's exciting news. And I think that was our only recognition tonight. Next up, we have to hear requests to address the board. Persons desiring to address the Board of Trustees must have filled out a speaker's card, and no presentation shall exceed 3 minutes. And tonight, we thank our technology team for acting a new policy. At the 3-minute mark, you will hear a ding and the mic will go silent. So just be cognizant of that. The board cannot deliberate on any subject that is not included on the agenda, and I have 3 speakers cards. And so first up, T. Ron Hicks.
Good evening. I just put in about 100 steps. At the social distancing is really working. To Dr. Rogers and this amazing school board, on behalf of the Lewisville ISD Council of PTAs, I want to say thank you for your tremendous support through this difficult school year. We know that it's trying times, but tough times don't last. Tough people do. And so I just wanted to share with you what the incredible work that we're still doing for our community and for our teachers. The hard work for our community is countless. Our students are still being loved upon, just as the parents are too. As a district, our numbers so far are 11,356 members. That is truly outstanding. We have 51 schools that are recognized by Texas PTA in good standing. We have 6 schools that are recognized by Texas PTA as active standing. On behalf of the PTA Council, we want to say thank you to Ms. Linda Krause. Ms. Krause is our non-traditional PTA liaison. She was able to deliver 500 members' baskets to 12 different locations, and provided over 300 survival bags for the administrative staff for here at this location. So that's a total of 800 gifts. Social distancing, of course, but still being able to share the love. What is truly needed in this time is that we are loved and we're pursuing love and showing love. The Texas PTA annual reflections took place virtually this year. We were represented by 144 total entries, 26 schools, 17 elementary, 7 middle, and 2 high. Traditionally, our annual Founders Day program will be postponed this year. Dr. Rogers and myself are working on a video to celebrate these incredible volunteers. Thank you all so much for what you do. If there's not a member that has not joined PTA, today is a good night to do so. You can go into joinpta.org and sign up with one of our local schools. Again, thank you all for being incredible. Thank you to I couldn't do this by myself. I have an amazing executive board, and they put up with me. So there you go. That's all incredible. And I still got 22 seconds. Boy, I am good. I'm going to tell my wife how good I was. Thank you, guys. Are there any questions? Are there any questions? Have a great night.
Thank you, Mr. Hicks. We always love to hear from our Council of PTAs. Thank you. Our next speaker is April Langston.
Good evening to you all, to Superintendent Rogers, President Catherine Sells, and the LASD School Board. It's been a year since the community joined with the Honorable Bobby Mitchell, who's here tonight, former board members Carol Kyer and Kathy Duke, and myself, who stood before you to encourage the naming of a school in honor of Vernell Gregg. Her work, many accomplishments, accolades, and tireless support of all children in our district whose work has been acknowledged by Texas congressmen, senators. She even has a letter from a former president as part of her volunteer efforts as part of the Retired and Senior Volunteer Program. Now it is February 8th, 2021, and our request is still the same. Vernell Gregg truly deserves a school named in her honor. She meets all the naming facility standards as set forth by LISD. Again, you are the board that can make this happen, and it's still in your power to do so. The Word of God encourages us to act justly, love mercy, and walk humbly. A decision to name a school in honor of Vernell is just the right thing to do. I believe God's timing is perfect, and the new STEM Academy would be a perfect place to bear her name. We applaud the district's decisions of a director of diversity and inclusion and other recent opportunities provided to those who are also well qualified from diverse backgrounds to serve all of our children. We know and appreciate that you're open to community input and not only want you to listen to our voices, but to hear our hearts about what really matters. Often Vernell says, April, you and the others are going through such trouble to keep my name before the board. But I say to her in the words of late Congressman John Lewis, Vernell, this is good trouble. So thank you for hearing and listening. We are prayerful and hopeful for a positive, unanimous response that we can all truly celebrate. I'm glad to see this naming on the agenda today. Thank you for allowing me to put love in action for the past year. Vernell Gregg STEM Academy. That sounds awesome. Has a historic ring to it. And I pray that God allows her to be able to see this come to fruition. Thank you, and God bless you.
Thank you, Ms. Langston. Up next, and our last speaker is Joan Parks Saunders.
To the Board of Trustees, the Superintendent, the administrators, and teachers, my name is Joan Park Saunders, and I appreciate the opportunity to speak to you this evening. I'm requesting that the Board name the new STEM Academy in honor of Vernell Gregg. As you know, Mrs. Gregg is an untiring advocate for LISD. Through her many years of service, she has exhibited exemplary leadership, innovation, sincere service, and dedication to the students, parents, teachers, administrators, and the community. Naming the STEM Academy after the former teacher, school board member, and president is the right thing to do. Naming the school in Ms. Gregg's honor would demonstrate LISD's commitment to diversity and innovation, as well as its appreciation for her hard work and commitment to the school district. This is not only my opinion, but that of many in the community. This gives the students, teachers, and community the opportunity to see a true role model. You have received emails from many leaders in the community, and I have several letters that I would like to submit to the board. The letters are from Antioch, Westside, Macedonia, Servants House, Friendship, Real World Ministry, RSVP, and CCA. These are all community leaders who express and support the naming of the academy after Vernell Gregg. In addition to the letters, I started an online petition on change.org. And in less than 2 weeks, the petition had more than 1,156 signatures. As a teacher, her influence changed the lives of her students. As a member of the school board, she changed the direction of the district. And as a community activist, she inspires and works to improve the education of all students. I urge you to name the academy after Vernell Gregg. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Saunders.
Where do I submit I actually have hard copies of their letters. Who would I give those to, or how do I submit those?
Yes, to Ms. Riggle. Okay, we will now conduct a public hearing on the Texas Academic Performance Report. Dr. Rapp?
Madam President, members of the board, I'm going to ask Dr. Sarah Fitzhugh to come up. She'll be making our taper presentation this evening.
All right, good evening, everybody. How are you guys doing? Tonight we're going to talk about the TAPR. This is our annual public hearing. Just a note, this is from TEA. They compile all this data each year for us to look at and to conduct our public hearing. For the year 2020, we were not rated because there were no STAR tests administered due to COVID, and so our rating is declared state of disaster. We did receive a special education determination status, which meets requirement. We met all the criteria. Stepping into the data, so for the class of 2019, 74.1% of LISD graduates were college, career, military ready. Within that, 63.5% were college ready. When you look at the state's numbers, we do exceed the state with that data. So graduates in higher education, again, this is another year behind because the students have to enroll and complete the year. So for the class of 2017-2018, 55.3% enrolled in a Texas higher education institution. This does not take into account those that go out of state. Within that, 77.1% completed without remediation necessary. Again, we exceed the state and the region with those numbers. Our four-year graduation rate was 95.7%. It was a tenth percentage point drop from the previous year's graduating class. Our dropout rate went from 0.7 to 0.9%. Again, the dropout rate, it's a four-year aggregate, so it looks at the students who are part of that class and aggregates freshman, sophomore, junior, senior years. SAT and ACT performance, we exceed the state and the region average in terms of our students and how they perform on those two assessments. Advanced placement-wise, we test a larger percentage of our students on advanced placement exams, and then within that, we exceed the state in terms of students meeting the criteria of a 3 or above on those exams. Just some additional indicators to put in there. We do monitor iStation data regularly. 92% of our middle school students completed at least one advanced course last year, and 1,155 of our students earned a certification through a CTE course. Unfortunately, there is no STAR data due to COVID-19. TEA did still print those pages using 2019 STAR data, but we have previously discussed those, but they're there in case you would like to journey back. In terms of staff, more than 99% of our teachers are teaching in a field where they are certified. Our staff holds 2,889 ESL certifications and 397 bilingual certifications. Years of experience, we are very well distributed in terms of our experience of our teachers. So you can see 23% have 1 to 5 years. That beginning year there at 3%, it's just a 1-year group, so it's kind of, it doesn't really proportionally fit in there because it's 1 year versus the others being a span. 21% are 6 to 10 years, 33% are 11 to 20, that's our biggest group, and then 20% have over 20 years of experience. And this year, Mr. Young.
Good evening, board members. This year there's a financial component to the taper, and what the state of Texas does for us, it compares our numbers to state averages, and I'd like to pull out a few of those for you to look at this evening. Total operating revenue, you can see the state average is $10,470, so Lewisville ISD gets less money per pupil than the state average. Now, let me pause and explain. This is all funds. This means the general fund that we're most used to. It means food service fund, debt service fund, this is everything all put together district-wide. It's the way the state does the comparison, so I have to use the numbers provided with the data. So we have $838 less per pupil than the state average. If we had the state average, we'd have $41 million more money annually if we were funded at the state level. Interestingly, the $41 million is a little bit larger than our annual what number? Recapture. Since we have less money to begin with, we spend a little bit less money on payroll, which is not to be unexpected. If we were spending on payroll what the state average is, we'd spend another $4.5 million on payroll. So we're spending less than the state average per pupil on payroll. Total operating expenditures, same story. We're spending less per pupil than the state average. If we were spending at the state level, we'd be spending another $10.2 million annually. So in terms of revenue and overall expenditures, we're much lower than the state average. Interestingly enough, although we get less money, we spend more of it on instruction than the state average. So beginning with less money per pupil, but we put more of it into the classroom spending on instruction. If we were to spend like the state average on instruction, we'd spend $13 million less on instruction. Same story here, instructional resources, we spend less than the state average, or excuse me, more than the state average. If we were spending the state average, we'd spend $700,000 less. School leadership, this is principals, assistant principals, and their clerical support. Again, we're spending more than the state average. If we were to spend the state average, we'd spend almost $1 million less here. So, summary, less money to begin with, but more money going in the classroom and to the campus where it does the most good. And it pays off in the academics that you just saw. Guidance and counseling, the same story here. Interestingly enough, line 8, general administration, we spend less than the state average. If we were to spend the state average on central admin, we'd spend another $6.6 million. So we're spending more in the classroom, more on campus, less on central admin than state averages, with less money to begin with. The gifted and talented program, we spend more than the state average. If we were to spend the state average, we'd spend $1.7 million less. Students with disabilities, the same story is here. We spend more than the state average per pupil. And finally, recapture, what a surprise. We spend more than the state average on recapture per pupil. If we were spending the state average on recapture, we'd spend $3.2 million less money. So that's a quick summary that compares Lewisville ISD to state per pupil averages. Let me pause there and ask if there's any questions or observations.
Does anyone have any comments or questions? Ms. Hassett?
I did. I was going to try to look for this information online, and I forgot. Does the state average include charter schools as well, or is it just ISDs?
It includes charters as well. It's everybody.
Okay. I was just wondering. Thank you.
Question.
Does anybody else have any questions? No?
Thank you very much.
Additional information about the TAPR can be located on TEA's webpage as well as our webpage, and the links are there on the slide as well. And with that, that is all I have to present tonight. I think there's a question piece.
Yes. Ms. Hassett?
I just wanted you to really quick explain the significance of the AP testing. That you said that we test more students, yet we have a higher percentage.
Yes.
Explain that a little bit, so how important that is.
So the larger your population that you test, you expect it's harder to move that value up in terms of percent outperforming. So the fact that we have such a large percentage higher scoring 3 or above means that our students are well prepared for the exams that they take.
I mean, it is a phenomenal number to think that we test all those kids in AP and 80% of them nearly make a 3, 4, 5, which is college credit. I mean, that is unheard of. So great accolades to a lot of folks for that.
Ms. Prosnick, did you have a question or comment?
Yes, and we chatted about this before. What is next year going to look like if we are forced to do the STAR test this year and it's just whoever shows up takes it? I mean, what will that be? When looking at data, will that be good data?
In my opinion, it's not going to be good data. It's going to be very spotty. It's going to be who comes to take the test and who doesn't. It depends on if we do administer the test. I don't know if TEA will try to present it in comparison to previous years, and I would say that that is something that we need to be very cautious of, because this is a very different time for administering exam with a year gap compared to the previous years. So I think all that we just need to see what TEA produces with the results they get, and there will be a lot of please keep this in mind and little asterisks off to the side.
Okay. Are there any other questions or comments? Okay. Dr. Rapp, is that all, or okay, we can open the hearing. Okay, the public hearing on the Texas Academic Performance Report is now open. If there are any persons present who would like to speak to this topic, please come forward at this time. Seeing no speakers, I declare this public hearing closed. Okay, moving on to consent items. I believe we have some items being pulled. Ms. Cox?
Yes, thank you, Madam Sells. I would like to pull RFP 26-184-19, 3A1, and 3B1. Yes, that's all I need to say, sorry.
3A1 and 3B1?
B1.
Are those the only two? Okay. Does anyone have any other motions that they would like to be pulled? Okay. Ms. Cox, would you like to make the motion?
I move that the board approve the consent agenda items as recommended by administration, with the exception of the following items: 3A1 RFP 26-188-19 and 3B1 RFP 25-26-18.
Thank you, Ms. Cox. Do I have a second? Ms. Hassett, thank you. Take my notes. Okay. All in favor of those consent agenda items, except those items being pulled, please raise your hand or say aye. Motion carries 6-0. Ms. Cox, would you like to make the motion for your first agenda item being pulled?
Yes. I move that the board approve consent agenda item RFP 26118A19, advertising, marketing, online media, and other related items as recommended by administration.
Okay, do I have a second for that? Thank you, Ms. Prosnick. Ms. Cox, would you like to speak to your motion?
Yes. It's more of just a question. I see we do a lot of newspaper and advertising, and I'm all a big proponent of media and promoting, but I was just curious, the message that our district is trying to portray, is it more of just, here's some information about our district, or, we're trying to recruit? I was just curious kind of what message we're trying to portray out to the community.
Yeah, that's a good question, Ms. Cox. I think it's all of the above. I think we try to tell the story of what separates LISD from other school options. I think we try to tell the great things that are happening in our classrooms, the kind of opportunities like STEM academies for elementary schools, or discovery academies, or CTE programs too. But I don't know if there's any other specifics, Ms. Brim, that you want to add, or. But it is a combination of all those types of things. And I think it is that we're trying to reach out to new customers and, of course, tell the story about the great things happening, with our current families, too.
And just wanted to, I'm all in favor of it. I think it's great. I think the more we can reach people. I was just curious because our website is, very robust. And so as parents that go here, we should know what's going on. So I didn't know if it was more to outreach people that were maybe moving here or people that weren't in the district to know a little bit more about what we're offering.
Yeah, and Mr. Lee leads that work, remember, and I know you're aware of this, but just for the community, there's a steering committee of other folks that, have some expertise in that area, and they meet to try to figure out what the campaign or strategy should be, and social media, they track that. It's a science that it's out of my league, but we're trying to do a good job of telling the LISD story.
Okay, are there any other comments or questions? Okay, all in favor of that motion? The motion carries 6-0. Thank you, Ms. Cox. Would you like to make the motion on your second pull?
I move that the board approve consent agenda item 3B1, renewal of the RFP 252618 school pictures secondary, as recommended by administration.
Okay, and do I have a second for that? Thank you, Ms. Hassett. Would you like to speak to your motion, Ms. Cox?
Yeah, so once again, I'm, of course, in favor of school pictures. But I advocated for this last year, and I'm going to keep advocating for it as long as I'm on the board. But something that UNT is doing for their students is on the back of their, and I'm proposing this for middle and high school students, on the back of their tags for the schools is mental health awareness information for kids, and also gives the counselor hotline, also information for kids that might need it. And I think in the times that we're in with our students that this is coming in very handy, and if it's a cost factor, I'm willing to come up here and put stickers on if I need to on every kid's tag. I feel that passionate about this.
Yeah, and Ms. Cox, please know that when you brought it up to me last year, I thought it was a great idea, and we passed that on. And actually, a lot of our campuses did do something. Our guidance and counseling department provided stickers for IDs. Some of the campuses followed through, some didn't. A campus like Harmon actually had something printed on the back. Mr. Martin in Pershing has reached out to Live Touch, which is our photography company, and so we're looking at something more permanent, but we absolutely think it's a good idea. We've got to be clear of what we put on the back, like LHS has been putting the tip line, and that kind of information, so we'll work on that, but please know that we agree that it's a good idea to continue to try to improve on.
Okay, does anybody have any questions or comments? Yes, and I think anytime we can use a blank space to benefit our students or area that's not utilized, on something that they carry and are supposed to have on themselves every day. Not that my kids ever fulfilled that duty, but but I think that it's beneficial to all. So if there are no further questions or comments, all in favor of that motion? And that motion carries 6-0. Thank you so much. Next up is our information items. Dr. Rapp.
All right, Madam President, members of the board, so thank you for your questions. As you read, each time it comes up the District Improvement Plan update. The DIP does contain updates from a variety of departments that are doing different pieces of work around the district, and appreciate those questions that are asked. A couple of highlights I would just point out from this month's update was on page 9 of the DIP as a result of the customized support that was provided to you, reported on about professional learning communities. 95% of campuses are at a level 3 or higher in alignment with the district PLC framework, and Dr. Miller provided that update. Our failure rates since the first 6 weeks have continued to come down and are less than 20%. We know that's a huge national conversation at this time, and I think that that really speaks to the work of our teachers and our campuses on how hard they're working with kids to stay caught up on their schoolwork. On page 12, we reported there were 14,754 trend walkthroughs, and of course the school chiefs work with the campus principals to look and talk about walkthrough data and complete walks with principals sometimes as they can as well, and y'all heard about that last week in an update. On page 21, over 1,070 participants completed our November trade credit survey to reflect on how they have learned and changed their practice during this time of COVID. Participants attributed to having to adapt and think out of the box to become stronger teachers and leaders, and new practices implemented, including adding more reflection time to assignments. And that's an important point, because reflection is often where students really connect the ideas about what they've learned and what does that mean. So I appreciate Dr. Miller administering that survey to staff and reporting on that for you. On page 28, we are starting staffing conversations, and we are aligning, as Dr. Rogers talked about, our staffing needs with our enrollment and adjusting especially our elementary staffing tools to account for that. And then on page 23, our learning and teaching team reported about their work that continues on performance tasks. We're piloting performance tasks at the elementary level, and Ms. Gall's here tonight for the pre-K item, but I'm so proud of her and Ms. Seeley's teams. This is continued work about having authentic assessment. And as we heard from Dr. Fitzhugh tonight, it's okay that STAR was not administered. We don't need the STAR in order to tell if our students are learning or not, and we continue to make progress on assessments. And then the last one is on page 44, guidance and counseling, and of course they reported on this last week. They held a whole child series for parents. The first Parenting in a Pandemic had 564 attendees, and the second parenting session, Cybersecurity and Safety, had 396 attendees. So that's your brief DIP update. That's many more pages than that, but again, thank you so much for the opportunity to provide that update.
Okay. Does any of the trustees have any questions or comments for Dr. Rapp? Thank you, Dr. Rapp. And moving on to pre-K update for instructional material.
All right, so Ms. Heidi Veal is going to come join us, and you all saw Ms. Veal, of course, earlier in the fall to provide the pre-K update, and we mentioned at that time that it was an instructional materials adoption year. So, of course, you'll see this as a discussion item next month and an action item, so we simply are going to provide just a few highlighted points, no PowerPoint presentation or anything like that. So, Ms. Veal, take it away.
Hi, good evening, Dr. Rogers, President Sells, distinguished school board. Just wanted to share an update on the pre-kindergarten instructional materials adoption process that's been going on. You got the information item in your notes as well. We have been working since last fall, since even before school started, getting together, putting our processes in place for the pre-K instructional materials adoption process. Just some interesting points of historical note. The last pre-K material adoption was in 2009. That was 11 years ago. So that's how long the adopted materials have been in the classrooms of our pre-K teachers. And you know how pre-K kids use materials, and so that could lead you to believe, yes, it's time to do this. Our pre-K guidelines were revised in 2015. So that was 6 years ago. And pre-K should have actually had an adoption that went into action the fall of 2017. So it just shows that this adoption process has been pushed off and pushed off and pushed off for years, and finally, the SBOE issued Proclamation 2021. It's happening for the pre-K instructional materials adoption to go into classrooms next school year. So in 2015, all of our pre-K guidelines were aligned, and so the reason we are seeking those new materials is because the new materials are more technologically based. They offer more options, especially to empower remote and virtual learning for our teachers and parents and students. They are actually aligned to our current Texas pre-K guidelines, our standards in our pre-K classrooms, and the number of our ESL and bilingual students have also drastically increased since 2009, when our last materials were introduced. So throughout the fall, the work really began with the launch of bringing on our committee. We have a diverse committee of 35 members representing one staff person from all of our 20 campuses with pre-kindergarten. But we also have additional people participating in the committee, more than 20. We have administrators from both Lily Jackson and one of our elementary campuses. We have a librarian, 2 members from the learning and teaching team, represent Esther Montanez with dual language, and Cheryl Holly Barron representing the LASs. And we also have a LAS on the team, and instructional technologist. So we have a really great cross-section of diverse experience, diverse backgrounds, including special education. So the materials that we're looking at are going to be based on their alignment to the guidelines, and we are only considering publishers who are both providing materials in English and Spanish equally. Just an overview of our timeline. In September, we provided virtual asynchronous learning for the committee with a Canvas course studying the Texas pre-K guidelines to give them deeper learning about what our materials need to be aligned to. And then we hosted virtual synchronous learning for the committee, going over all of our curriculum adoption non-negotiables. So they could really see this is what the guidelines mean for us, but this is what's important also for our community in LISD. In November, we unpacked lots of data that we had been collecting over the summer so that we could create a rubric, refine it, and come up with the very best rubric that represented the needs of our community and our students. Those meetings happened in person in small committees so we could allow for level orange guidelines and still have that collaboration face-to-face as best as possible. In December, we had planned to host an in-person community fair, but we had to scrub those plans and make it virtual. So that's a virtual option that had been advertised through LISD social media, and also giving those links to teachers, asking them to embed it in their newsletters and their Seesaw announcements, inviting parents and family and community members to review the curriculum materials that we're looking at. So we did get some good response there. In November, we saw some preliminary vendor presentations to a steering committee of learning and teaching leaders and technology leaders. January, this just happened, but we had our vendor presentations to the committee. We were able to do that at Tech West in the new facilities over there, and also have the space to spread out but be together as a group for that experience. And now we're at the place where we're bringing our data together and finalizing our choices and decisions, narrowing down our decisions. I'm here for the information item, but you'll see me again in March, and you'll see me again in April. And hopefully we'll have a really great decision to ask you guys to put before you that time.
Okay, does anyone have any questions? Ms. Prosnick.
I was actually pleased to see how many virtual people came in to look at the materials.
Oh, good.
And I thought, I think it's more than I've seen for some of our other adoptions. And so I would say if you can find a silver lining in COVID, I think that this perhaps might be a way for us to do that with other adoptions going forward, is to perhaps have a virtual option. Because sometimes in person can mean my job or feed my children or things along those lines to get home to feed them. So that was just something that I noticed in one of my questions that was asked, and I wanted to highlight that we can find silver linings. I'm trying to find them, and I think that was one. So I look forward to the presentation next month.
And Ms. Prosnick, there's no doubt that is one of the silver linings around COVID, is that we will continue to use virtual opportunities in the future, such as what you mentioned.
Okay, Ms. Hassett.
I was wondering, has SBOE indicated when they might revise the standards again? Because they often are an 8-year cycle. Are we going to be rebuying materials in a few years?
Right. It's very unfortunate they've gotten themselves in the situation by pushing off pre-K instructional materials adoption. The typical cycle is revised, new standards, and then your curriculum materials are right after that. So we've just been on pins and needles waiting for this to happen for too long. There is not an expectation. I have asked that question of Region 11 and other state level leaders. Are we going to get caught by a new revision anytime soon? And the information I've gotten has been, no, this is it. These are the revised guidelines. So, but who knows? Things change.
Okay. Are there any additional questions or comments? Okay. Thank you, Ms. Fiel.
Okay. Thank you so much.
You. Moving on now to our discussion items. Mr. Youngs.
Good evening, board members. On page 139 of your board book, you'll find the financial report for the month of December, last month. December is one of the 3 or 4 months that we positively cash flow. So if you look at the second column from the far right, revenue in the general fund came in at $241 million. We spent $164, so we had a net gain in the general fund of $77 million. That's compared to $75 at the same point a year ago. So the general fund is positively cash flowing. It reflects the time of year we're in. Property tax revenue is starting to flow into the district. The next fund down is the Child Nutrition Fund. We have revenue of $6.4 million, expenditures of $5.9, about $500,000 positive cash flow. That compares to $2.4 million at the same time a year ago. We had a lot more students in the cafeterias a year ago than we do this year, so we're still positively cash flowing, but not near the rate as a year ago. Next fund down is the debt service fund. We pay our debt service in February and August, and so we haven't paid any principal and interest. We will in February. $83 million of revenue and $83 million in outstanding surplus at the end of December. And then if you'll turn to page 146, you can see the yield on our cash portfolio. We're earning the grand sum of 0.10%, 0.1%. A year ago, we were earning 1.6% on our portfolio of cash. 6-month Treasury bills are 9/100ths, so we're earning a little bit more than the federal government, but not a lot. Interest rates are extremely low, and they're forecast to remain so. That concludes the monthly financial report. If there are any questions, I'd be happy to be responsive.
Thank you, Mr. Youngs. Ms. Cox?
Thank you, Mr. Youngs. I always appreciate how you break it down, so I very much appreciate how you give your report. But I have a question in regards to the technology funds. I know we did a budget amendment for that, and, to to Mr. Colbeck's team. You know, they've done an outstanding job helping with our virtual students, and we continue to have more needs. Do you foresee more budget amendments or that, you know, we're going to need in that department, or?
Good question. The initial pilot will come out of already board-approved appropriated funds for this year. If there's anything further this year, we'll come back to the board and ask for a further appropriation. But so far, no. But it depends how the pilot goes. If the pilot goes well, then we'll want to pursue that a little bit, and we'll have that conversation at that point.
Okay. Are there additional questions for Mr. Youngs?
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Youngs. Okay. Now we will move on to our action items. Dr. Rapp?
Okay, this is the last time we'll be bringing some targeted improvement plans before you for this month. And so, well, this year, this month, I meant this year. That was a good one. But basically, of course, we have Ms. Cragen and Ms. Dockery here and Leanne Lewis who have worked to develop these plans. These are for campuses that have a rating of a D in a domain. Hedrick Middle School has prioritized objective-driven daily lesson plans with formative assessments and data-driven instruction in their plan, and you saw all the different strategies and steps related to that. DeLay has prioritized the compelling and aligned vision, mission, and goals, and objective-driven daily lesson plans with formative assessments. And I know that you always like to say supportive words to these principals who find themselves in this situation, and so I'll just turn it over to any questions you may have or just words you want to say to them.
Okay. Would anyone like to make any comments? Ms. Prosnick?
Well, I do want to say I appreciate the work, and I believe it was called Groundhog Day last month when we did this, and that is my fear for the coming year, is because we won't have data to change ratings, but that I know that the work is going on the campus. I'm very appreciative of the work that I've seen in the failing grades and how those have really come down on those campuses. And that doesn't happen by accident. That happens with targeted interventions, work by teachers, good leadership on those campuses. So I know this is a lovely report that you have to do, but the proof is in the work that the students are doing, and it's evident. And I just wanted to say thank you.
Okay. Ms. Cox, did you? No. Okay. Mr. Miller?
Yeah, I just want to echo those thoughts. I know some of the leaders are here, the chiefs are here. Here's what I would put on the table. I think we've got some campuses where we're going to do some walkthroughs relative to facilities-related things. I think it's an interesting time of year where I see candidates in schools and board members not invited. Board members who can come to those campuses and see things and come back and get monies approved, I think is an important time well spent. So I would say that when you're opening your campuses to political activities, open it to board members that can come see what's going on so that we can provide feedback at the dais and recommendations, right? I mean, we're talking, for example, everybody will benefit from student assistant counselors, right? Even campuses in a tip. These are important things for us to see, and it's not as easy for us to see anymore. And we can see digitally, by the way. A campus leader could meet with a couple trustees digitally. We don't have to be disruptive. But I think that, you know, it's interesting. The doors are open sometimes for some, and then we're not, and really we should be in there, right? And I know you guys always want us in there under normal circumstances, and we don't want to be intrusive, because I think a board member now could be perceived as that. But just know, I think most of us would love to be in a campus or doing a video promoting the fun things. Remember what we used to talk about? You're in a tip. What do? You look at the principal, you get a pony, you come out and paint the walls, you have a barbecue. These are literally things they talk about, right? It's creating, this is where you need a T-Ron. It's creating energy and excitement, right? And building momentum. And so if we could do that in this digital world or a little face-to-face, I've had COVID, so I've got 2 months of, remittance, I guess. We're available. Use us. Again, I know what I'm suggesting is very complex, but just want to make sure that it's available to you.
Thank you, Mr. Miller.
And Mr. Miller, I just want to be clear, just because a candidate or candidates post things, one, sometimes those pictures are not recent pictures. And so under level orange, our campuses are closed to visitors. Now, certainly, if the board wants to visit a campus, you know, we'll be more than happy. Y'all are a little different than a visitor. But I think we have to be careful about just because we see it on social media means they're getting access that the board's not getting. I think that's part of the politicking. But anyway, I'll be more than happy to.
Well, and I think, too,
yeah.
I'm offering balancing. If on campus, if a video like that type of situation or a mentoring that we used to do, whatever is valuable in the context of the problem you're solving at that campus,
Yeah, absolutely.
I'd love to jump in how we can help so that it doesn't, you know, we don't have to leave it to, well, the board's not doing this, right? I mean, I
Yeah.
think the board is very active, and you guys are too, and so just, it's a wide open offer.
Yeah, it's just a different experience. I promise you, I don't think principals think that, hey, the board doesn't want to be involved. I mean, I think they know, you know, the six of y'all well enough. I think it's just a strange circumstance. I mean, I'm not on campuses as much as I used to be. I still go on campuses, but not as much. I do a lot of virtual, but we'll absolutely pass that information along.
Okay. Does anybody else? Ms. Hassett?
I would like to concur with my fellow board members, well, except for the video. If you want someone to be on video, pick someone else. But I really appreciate the detail, the thoroughness, the creative way that you are looking at the issues that are in the campuses and trying to make sure that you're thoroughly wrapping all the supports and protections around the babies there to make sure that they're learning and growing. So I really, really appreciate all the work.
And Ms. Cox?
Yes, I'm going to extend my sincere appreciations as well because I know all the campuses are working tirelessly this year. I'm not trying to discredit them, but the numbers are showing as the students are coming back to campuses. I really appreciate, and I know that alludes to a lot of extra phone calls, a lot of extra work, and a lot of extra hours the teachers, administrators, and staff are putting in for these students. So I know you guys are watching those virtual students just as much as the kids in the classroom, and I really appreciate it. You're alluding to their success.
Yes. Ms. Hassan?
Just real quick, I just wanted to thank you both because I believe the two of you are brand new principals to these campuses. And so just to come in and take this on, you know, is tough. And so thank you guys for your hard work and for being willing to do that. And we appreciate it.
So, Ms. Lasan, you're absolutely right. And so Ms. Dockery and Ms. Cragen, they knew what they were getting into. We are.
I'm sure they did, but still.
But we are extremely proud of the job that they have done. They've stepped in and you know, picked the pace up and, you know, are making a big difference. And, you know, so the accolades that they're getting and their staff, I mean, please understand, you know, it's not just them, it's their staff having to implement this. And, you know, I appreciate the work of our chiefs working with our principals. It's a lot of work required in a already, before COVID, it was already difficult work, and then you add all that. And so they've done yeoman's work, and we greatly appreciate the job.
And I do want to echo that, too. I actually met Ms. Dockery out on the sidewalk holding a sign the first of the year. So there are some opportunities, but I want to say especially, and I know that it's happening at Hedrick, but especially at DeLay, because that is where my mentee is. And I've been with her since 4th grade, and she's in 8th grade now. And for your staff and your teachers and you all to work with our nonprofits in allowing the mentoring to continue on a virtual basis, it has got to be enormous. It's not just one of us coming in and finding a spot in a hall. It's the communities and staff person has to be on that virtual mentoring session with you, and that has to be a campus-wide just community and feel for that to happen, because only one child can be in that office at a time with that Communities and Schools of North Texas. And I know that that means some flexibility from those teachers, that those classes that those students are in. But I just wanted to say thank you, and thank you both for stepping into those roles, and just for all you do on those campuses. And please echo all of these 6 comments back to your staff and your students for us. We truly do appreciate the work that's being done. And that's all of our campuses. But because you two are here and you're on the agenda, I wanted to especially point you out tonight. So thank you. Okay, so would someone like to make the motion?
I move that the board approve the 2020-2021 targeted improvement plans for DeLay and Hedrick Middle Schools as recommended by administration.
Okay, and Mr. Miller, I saw your hand go up. I imagine that's to second. All in favor? Motion carries 6-0. Next up, Dr. Rogers.
Thank you, Madam President. So we're asking you to approve a license agreement with the City of Carrollton. I just greatly appreciate the board's flexibility about us taking the 5 acres of land across from Hebron High School that we retained when we sold the rest of the land, because it provides overflow parking, particularly on Friday nights for Hebron. And of course, the agreement allows for us to retain ownership of the land, but the City of Carrollton is going to develop and put 130 parking spaces and put a neighborhood park on our land, and yet still allows us to use that overflow parking. So I think it's a win-win, and I greatly appreciate the board's willingness to consider.
Does anyone have any questions or comments? Someone like to make the motion? Ms. Lasan?
I move that the board approve the license agreement with the City of Carrollton to create a neighborhood park allowing for additional parking for Hebron High School as presented by administration.
Do I have a second? Thank you, Ms. Prosnick. All in favor? Motion carries 6-0. Next up is to consider approval of TASB Board Policy Update 116. Ms. Bay?
Thank you, Madam President. As you know, from time to time, TASB will issue a board policy update to its local, just to stay up to date with current clarifications that are needed and local and state guidance. Update 116, while fairly minor, has been reviewed by the leadership team, and their notes and proposed changes are included in your board book. Therefore, we recommend your approval of Update 116.
Okay. Does anyone have any comments or questions for Ms. Bay? Okay. Would somebody like to make the motion, Ms. Prosnick?
I move that the board approve the proposed revisions to TASB Board Policy Update 116 Local as recommended by administration.
Okay. Do I have a second? Okay. Ms. Cox, I saw your hand first. All in favor? Motion carries 6-0. Next up is to consider naming the new STEM Academy on Josie Lane. Mr. Miller.
Thank you, Madam President. This has been a long journey, as you talked about, April. In fact, just so you know, we've got another name that was brought to us 3 or 4 years ago that we've not named a facility on. And so we were moving at a pace that we thought was reasonable. Let me just say this first, Mrs. Sells and board members, on behalf of the school naming committee, and if you know I'm reading something, there's a reason. I'm excited to share our recommendation for naming LIST's newest elementary school on Josie Lane. First, however, I need to address something that has been brought to our attention. So there's a letter that suggests that CCA has endorsed the naming of the campus. As the chairman of CCA, I can tell you that CCA does not endorse any, we do not encroach on any political activity. It is up to the city's schools to name after the entity. Our job in the name of Jesus Christ is to do the work that we've been called to do. The individuals that wrote letters did it on their behalf, but CCA as an entity continues to do its work as a standalone function in partnership with churches in the community. And I think it's just important to know that CCA is not taking a position on the naming tonight. On behalf of the school naming committee, that was Mrs. Cox and Mrs. Hassett and myself, I'm excited to share our recommendations for naming LISD's newest elementary school on Josie Lane. We've received a good amount of feedback and communication from members of the community regarding the name. I want to thank everyone who emailed us, spoke to us in person at board meetings, participated in surveys, shared feedback in any way. All your thoughts and suggestions were appreciated. And we did make sure we spoke to Johnny. We talked to Kathy Duke, talked to Carol Kyer, all the folks that were there. We didn't receive a letter from Commissioner Mitchell, otherwise we would respond to her, but we really tried to be proactive. I specifically want to highlight the names of distinguished individuals whose supporters shared with us compelling stories of why they should have a facility named after them. The former LISD teacher and board member Vernell Gregg and former BB Owen PE coach Gary Cox. To be sure, both are worthy of honor and recognition. In the survey, we shared with the families of students who will attend the school, and the families in the feeder middle school, Griffin, and high school, the Colony. No name was a clear winner among the options we provided, or among write-in options. The name Sterling, which was an attempt to describe the character of the students attending the school, received about 90 votes. Mr. Cox received about 80 write-in votes, and finally the name Josie Lane received about 70. I think I speak for the entire board when I say that as a body corporate, we generally prefer to name schools with some deference to geographic or historical significance, as opposed to after an individual, regardless of how deserving they may be. I think it is important to say that and acknowledge the difference in philosophy from previous boards. I don't think there is a right or wrong approach, and there are certainly pros and cons to any decision that we would make. We have shown the willingness, however, to consider naming district facilities after individuals, such as the Professional Learning Wing of Central Administration after William T. Bolin, and the recently renamed LISD Student Success Center at College Street, some of our most special students, which we suggested naming after Mrs. Gregg, and she respectfully declined. I say all of that to preface our recommendation because I think it is important to shed a little light onto how seriously we have taken the naming of the facility. The building will stand for 50 years or more, and it is important that we get this right. Upon reviewing the survey feedback, our group went back to the drawing board to look for a different option. After much deliberation and thought, we landed on the name we are recommending tonight, LISD STEM Academy at Memorial Elementary. Memorial Drive in the Colony is dedicated to veterans for their service in the U.S. Armed Forces. And we believe having a Memorial Elementary School will allow us the opportunity to memorialize, if you will, a number of important and influential people in the communities we serve. Those people may be living today, serving, or in the future. With that said, Mrs. Sells, I would like to make a motion on this agenda item.
Okay. Go ahead.
I move that the board approve the name of the new elementary school on Josie Lane, LISD STEM Academy at Memorial Elementary School.
Elementary school. Okay. I was writing. Sorry. Do I have a second? Ms. Cox, do we have discussion or questions?
I would just make a comment. As I did not serve on this committee, but I just wanted you all to know that I respect your hard work, and I know this was a hard decision to make and a lot of things to go through. And part of the reason why we decided to have a committee is so that y'all could do this work, and then the others of us would, hopefully support you. So anyway, I just wanted to thank you and just acknowledge again the rest of the community that wrote in. They were all read and all taken to heart for different things. So anyway, just wanted to put that out there.
Any additional comments or questions? Ms. Cox?
I just want to make a comment, and Mr. Miller, you said it best, and I'm glad you wrote it all down because you didn't miss anything. But it is hard to name a school when you're thinking about a school being around for 50 years, and so I find this Memorial Elementary very fitting to honor people of the present and past. As the school opens, I find it a very way, especially in a pandemic that we've been in, a way to really embrace what's to come and the future for these students. So I'm very proud of the selection of Memorial Elementary.
Are there additional comments or questions? Okay, I will call the vote. All in favor of the new STEM Academy being, and I wrote this down, so please make sure I got it right, because if you know, the committees do not speak. So for the committee members, this first times. So LISD STEM Academy at Memorial Elementary School. Okay. All in favor? Motion carries 6-0. Okay, Mr. Miller, you're still up on the consider approval of Gibson Governance Audit Final Report.
So this is a report that is we began an internal audit function this year. That's a committee chaired by me, or on an ongoing basis by policy, it'll be the board vice president. We have 3 things that we're pursuing. Board audit report. We started with ourselves and wanted to see how we were doing, and that includes some administration. We have a employee service audit being happening, and then we have a PEMS audit that is somewhere in there. We will pick 2 more here probably in the next coming months, identify vendors, and then as it transitions to a new committee, they will work with them in the following year. Staff will participate in that selection with us. This is to receive our report. It's done. This is it. Now there's work to go with it, but our report is done. The job is done. It will be paid in full, and now it's up to us to perform action plans to get to a higher level of governance and efficiency. I think governance and efficiency, I think, are the 2 best words for us.
Okay, so would you like to make that motion?
And I put my language away with it. Here we go. I move that the board approve. Oh, that's the election. I move that the board approve the final governance audit report as prepared and presented by Greg Gibson of Gibson Consulting Group.
Okay, do I have a second? Thank you, Ms. Prosnick. All in favor, or do you have any questions or comments? Ms. Prosnick?
I just wanted to say that this report was presented in public at our work session last week. So if you want to go and watch that, you are certainly welcome to. So it was presented in the public, and the entire board had an opportunity to make comments on all portions of the audit.
Correct. Thank you, Ms. Prosnick, for clarifying that. Any others? All right. All in favor? Motion carries 6-0. Thank you. Now to consider order calling for 2021 Board of Trustees general election for place 1 and place 2. Would somebody like to make a motion to call for that election? Ms. Cox?
I move that the board approve the order calling for a Board of Trustee election to be held on Saturday, May 1st, 2021, to elect trustees for place 1 and place 2.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Hassett, for seconding. I would presume that there's no questions or comments. I would like to make sure to ask. Okay, all in favor? The motion carries 6-0. The next item on the agenda is to consider a Level 3 employee grievance appeal. The board may conduct a closed meeting on an employee complaint to the extent required or provided by law pursuant to Texas Government Code Section 551.082. We will therefore move into closed session at this time to hear the Level 3 employee grievance appeal. The time is now 8:30 p.m. Does any board member have a motion regarding the level 3 employee grievance? Oh, no, it's not on here. But yes, we are back in open session at 9:03 p.m. Does any board member have a motion regarding the level 3 employee grievance appeal? Ms. Prosnick?
I move to uphold the level 2 employee grievance decision of administration.
Do we have a second? Ms. Cox, all in favor? Aye. Motion carries. Any opposed? 6-0. Okay, and if there's no further business, this meeting is adjourned, and the time is now 9:03 p.m. Thank you all.